She said it like a warning, soft, steady, and just above a whisper. Don't ruin this. But the truth was, she already had. It started on a quiet evening, the kind that stretches out, where time feels slower, heavier. The air carried that soft hum of something unspoken. She was standing by the window, light from the late sun spilling across her face, turning every line of it into something I couldn't stop looking at. She was 40, maybe a little more. The kind of beautiful that doesn't try, that just exists. Confident in her silence, in the way she crossed one arm under the other, in the small sigh that escaped her lips as she thought no one was watching. But I was watching. She turned slightly, her eyes catching mine. It wasn't a look that asked questions, it was one that tested if I'd look away first. I didn't. Do you always stare like that? She asked, almost amused. Only when there's something worth staring at. She exhaled, a sound between disbelief and laughter. You shouldn't say things like that. Why not? Because I might believe them. There was no music, no loud moment, just that shared quiet, heavy and still. Her fingers brushed the edge of the table as she walked closer. The scent of her perfume, subtle, like jasmine left behind after the rain, reached me first. It was nothing dramatic, but it changed everything. I noticed the way her hand trembled when she reached for her glass, how she steadied it midair before taking a slow sip. Maybe she noticed me noticing. Maybe that's what made her smirk the way she did, not confidence, but something more dangerous, awareness. Do you ever regret things before you even do them? I asked. She tilted her head slightly. You mean like this? Her tone was playful, but her eyes weren't. There was hesitation there, a flicker of something fragile beneath the calm. I wanted to say something, but the words tangled somewhere between my chest and my throat. Instead, I laughed softly. I just meant, some moments feel like mistakes waiting to happen. Then maybe, she said, setting her glass down, you should stop chasing those moments. She turned to walk past me, slow, deliberate, but her shoulder brushed mine, light as breath. The contact barely lasted a second, but my heart didn't care about seconds. I turned, meaning to say something, anything, but she had already stopped. Her voice dropped. You think this is simple, don't you? No, I said. That's why I can't walk away. Her expression softened, not in surrender, but in understanding. For a moment, she looked at me like she was trying to remember something she'd promised herself to forget. Outside, the sky was turning darker, streaked with the faint gold of a dying sunset. The room felt smaller, the air thicker. She reached out suddenly, her fingers grazing my wrist, then stopped halfway, frozen between impulse and restraint. You don't know what you're doing, she whispered. Maybe not, I said. But neither do you. Her eyes flickered, defiance first, then a quiet kind of fear. Before she could answer, the door behind us creaked open. The sound cut through the silence like a blade. She froze, hands still suspended in midair. And just before she turned toward the sound, she whispered again, barely audible. Don't ruin this. But standing there, every inch of me caught between her nearness and the echo of that voice. I already knew it was too late. The next morning, the air between us was different, not tense, exactly, but charged in a way that made every glance feel heavier than it should. She was sitting at the kitchen table, coffee in hand, hair loosely tied, wearing an old white shirt that looked far too effortless for the chaos it stirred in my head. There were tiny details I couldn't unsee now, the faint crease at the corner of her mouth when she hid a smile, the quiet stillness she carried, like she'd seen enough of the world to know how fragile moments could be. Didn't sleep much? I asked, pouring my coffee. She didn't look up. You talk too much for someone who barely slept either. That half smile again. Teasing, but layered with something she didn't want me to notice. The truth was, I'd been up all night, replaying her voice, her words. Don't ruin this. But what was this? A friendship? A line neither of us was supposed to cross? I sat across from her, the table between us feeling like the only safe distance left. She stirred her coffee slowly, watching the swirl. You remind me of someone I used to know, she said quietly. Someone you miss? Someone I should have left alone. That one landed heavier than she meant it to. Her gaze lifted, meeting mine, steady, sad, a little too honest. I wanted to ask more, but her expression warned me not to. Instead, I leaned back and said, Maybe you didn't leave them soon enough. Her lips curved, but her eyes didn't match. You sound like someone who hasn't been hurt yet. There was a silence then, long enough for me to hear the faint ticking of the clock, long enough for her to reach out, fingers brushing a stray coffee spill near my hand. It wasn't intentional, maybe, but the touch stayed too long to be nothing. Her thumb lingered for half a second, then she pulled back as if the air burned. I shouldn't. She started. Then stopped. Her phone buzzed. A message. She ignored it. I studied her, the practiced composure, the guarded posture. There was something behind it, loneliness. The kind that doesn't scream, just settles into your bones. I'm not trying to make this complicated, I said finally. Then don't, she replied. You'll only end up regretting it. But her voice trembled, the first crack in all that control. Later that day, when we passed each other in the hallway, she brushed past me, deliberately, maybe accidentally. I couldn't tell. Her perfume caught in my breath again, soft and maddening. I turned, but she was already halfway down the corridor, pausing just long enough to glance back. No words. Just a look that said you feel this too. I didn't follow. Couldn't. But that night, when I caught my reflection in the window, tired eyes, restless thoughts, I realized something I shouldn't have. She wasn't ruining me. I was letting her. And for the first time, I didn't want her to stop. End of part 2, to continue in part 3. Almost, but not yet. The rain started just as the lights flickered. A quiet storm, steady enough to blur the edges of everything outside. She was standing by the window, phone in hand, her reflection caught in the glass, half light, half shadow. I leaned against the doorframe, watching the way the drops traced down the pane, the way she exhaled before speaking. You should go, she said softly. I will, I lied. She turned, arms crossed, one brow raised. You always say that. I mean it this time. Do you? The room was too quiet. Only the hum of the rain, the low buzz of the fridge, the kind of silence that doesn't belong to strangers. I stepped closer. Not enough to touch, just enough to feel the air change. Her breath hitched almost imperceptibly. Her voice softened. You're playing with something you don't understand. I understand enough, I said slower now. Enough to know I shouldn't want this. Her lips parted slightly, a mix of warning and something else, something dangerous. Then don't. But she didn't move. I could smell her perfume, faint jasmine, warm skin, something human and real. My hand hovered near hers on the window frame, the smallest space between us suddenly feeling unbearable. Then her phone buzzed again. We both froze. A name flashed on the screen. Someone older. Familiar. Her hand darted out, flipping the phone face down. It's nothing, she said too quickly. It wasn't nothing. Someone who'd mind if they saw us here? I asked. Her eyes met mine, a mix of defiance and guilt. Someone who wouldn't understand. I wanted to ask more, but she stepped closer instead, close enough for the edge of her shirt to brush my arm. Her hand reached for the curtain, pretending to fix it, but it was an excuse to stay near. You should really go now, she whispered. Say that again, I said. What? Say it like you mean it. She turned, eyes locking onto mine. Don't make me. For a moment we didn't move. Just silence, thick, pulsing, filled with everything neither of us could say. Then lightning flashed outside, and she flinched, instinctively grabbing my arm. Her fingers stayed there, gripping a second too long. When she realized, she started to pull away, but I caught her wrist gently. Neither of us breathed. If she leaned in an inch closer, I would have closed the distance. I wanted to. But instead, she whispered, Someone's coming. I dropped my hand just as footsteps echoed in the hall. A knock. Her coworker's voice on the other side. We stood perfectly still, too close, too obvious. Her pulse raced under my thumb before I let go. Just a second, she called out, stepping away fast, pretending to fix her hair. When the door opened, I was by the window again, pretending to look anywhere but her. She smiled politely, her voice calm, but her hands, they trembled. And even after the door shut again, she didn't turn back to me. Don't, she said quietly. I wasn't going to. But we both knew that was a lie. ChatGPT said. It started with silence. The kind that stretches, fragile and heavy, the kind that says too much. She sat on the couch, head tilted slightly down, tracing the rim of her mug. The coffee had gone cold hours ago. I stood across the room, unsure if stepping closer would break whatever was holding us together, or whatever was holding us back. You've been avoiding me, I said finally. She didn't look up. Maybe that's what you wanted. It's not. Her lips pressed together. Then what do you want? The question hung between us. Too sharp, too honest. I crossed the room. She didn't stop me. Her shoulders tensed when I sat beside her, close, but not touching. The air felt charged, static. I don't want to ruin things for you, I said. But pretending this isn't real, it's worse. She laughed softly, without humor. You're young. Everything feels real when you're your age. That's not fair, I said, my voice low. She turned to face me, finally. Her eyes looked tired, guarded, but there was something flickering underneath. Fair? You think this has anything to do with fair? I didn't answer. I just looked at her, really looked. The faint lines around her eyes, the way her hair fell over her face, the pulse at her throat. She was beautiful in a way that made breathing feel like effort. Without thinking, I reached out, brushed a loose strand of hair behind her ear. My fingers lingered there, trembling just slightly. She closed her eyes, not pulling away. Don't, she whispered. Don't do that. Why not? Because if you do, I won't stop you. My hand fell to my lap, but the space between us still burned. I could feel the heat of her skin, the scent of her perfume, something like jasmine and rain. Then stop me, I said. She opened her eyes, and there it was. The fear, the longing, the truth she kept buried. Her hand moved, slow, hesitant, resting on my arm. You don't know what this would cost. I don't care. Yes, you do. Her voice broke on the last word, quiet and fragile. I leaned forward just enough for her breath to touch my face. You think I don't see how you look at me? She whispered. Like I'm something you're trying not to want? I stopped trying, I said. Her fingers tightened around my arm. She looked like she wanted to speak, but the words wouldn't come. Then she exhaled, shaky. You shouldn't be here. I know. So why are you? I smiled faintly. Because you told me not to ruin this. Her lips parted, half protest, half surrender. I could see the pulse in her throat quicken, her shoulders rise with a shaky breath. The world outside blurred, rain against the window, the soft hum of the fridge, the sound of her heartbeat almost loud enough to drown it all out. And then, she leaned in, just slightly. Close enough that I could feel her warmth. Her voice was barely a whisper. If you touch me right now, there's no going back. I hesitated, an inch away from her, every part of me screaming to close the distance. And just as I did, her phone rang. A sharp sound. Jarring. Real. She froze. The spell shattered. Neither of us moved. The ringing kept going, loud, merciless, until she whispered, almost to herself. Please don't answer that. The phone stopped ringing, but the silence that followed was worse. She stared at the screen, still glowing on the table. I saw the name, just for a second, and something in her eyes changed. You should go, she said quietly. I'm not leaving. Her jaw tightened. You don't understand. You never did. I did, though. Maybe not all of it, but enough. Enough to know that whatever just flashed across that phone wasn't just a name. It was history. It was the part of her life I was never supposed to see. I stood, the floor creaking beneath us. Was it him? She didn't answer. That was enough. The rain outside was harder now, streaking the windows like it wanted in. Her shoulders drew in on themselves, not weak, just guarded. You told me there wasn't anyone, I said. There wasn't, she whispered. Until I tried to forget him. The words landed like a blow. My breath caught, but I didn't move. She rubbed her temple, looking suddenly older, smaller. It's complicated, she said. It always is. She looked up sharply, and for a heartbeat I saw anger flash through her, anger at me, at herself, at the situation she couldn't control. Do you think this is easy for me? She asked. You think I wanted this? Her voice trembled. Not from rage, from exhaustion. I stepped closer despite everything. She didn't back away, but her hands clenched into fists. Don't, she said softly. Not right now. I ignored it. My hand brushed hers, and for a second she didn't pull away. Then she did, fast, like touching me burned. Stop making this harder, she whispered. Then tell me what that call was. She turned her back to me, crossing her arms. It doesn't matter. It does. She spun around, eyes bright with something close to tears. He's my ex-husband. The air went out of the room. He's back in town, she said. He wants to meet. I laughed under my breath, not because it was funny, but because it was too much. And you? What do you want? Her lips parted, then closed. She didn't answer. That silence said everything. I could feel the heat drain from the moment, replaced by something sharper, fear, maybe jealousy. She stepped past me, too close, her shoulder brushing mine. It sent a jolt through me, unwanted but real. You think I can compete with that? I asked quietly. She stopped by the door, her back to me. It's not a competition. Feels like one. She turned halfway, her eyes soft but distant. You're not supposed to be here. Not in this part of my life. Then why do you keep letting me in? Her breath caught. Because you make me forget who I'm supposed to be. For a moment either of us moved. The rain softened, a clock ticked somewhere, the world felt painfully still. Then she reached for the doorknob, hesitated, and looked over her shoulder. Tomorrow, she said. Come back tomorrow. I'll tell you everything. Her voice was barely a whisper now. I nodded, but inside I knew something had shifted. What had felt fragile and secret now felt dangerous. And as I left, I couldn't shake the feeling that by tomorrow, it would already be too late. She opened the door before I even knocked. Eyes tired, hair loose, no pretense left. She looked like someone who hadn't slept. Or maybe someone who'd made a decision and didn't know how to live with it yet. I stepped in. The house was quiet, too quiet. The faint smell of coffee lingered in the air, cold now, untouched. He came by, she said. No hello, no build-up. Just that. I waited. He wanted to talk. Closure, he called it. Her voice cracked on the last word, barely noticeable, but I heard it. She turned away, walking toward the window. Her arms wrapped around herself, a habit she had when she didn't want anyone to see she was shaking. And did you get it? I asked softly. I don't know, she whispered. I thought I did. Until I saw you standing there. The distance between us felt impossible, a few steps, maybe 3, but it might as well have been a mile. I shouldn't be here, I said. Then why are you? The question landed heavy. Because you didn't tell me not to come. She closed her eyes, her shoulders rising as she took a long breath. When she turned, her expression was a mess of guilt and longing. I don't want to ruin you, she said quietly. You already did. It wasn't an accusation, just the truth between us. She took one hesitant step forward, then another. My pulse quickened. Her gaze dropped to my mouth for half a second before she caught herself. This isn't fair, she whispered. Neither is wanting someone you can't stop thinking about. That broke her. The wall she'd built, the space she'd been keeping, it all faltered. She reached up, brushing her fingers against my collarbone as if testing if I was real. Tell me to stop, she said. I can't. Her hand lingered, trembling slightly. The air between us thickened, heavy, electric. I could feel her breath on my skin, her heartbeat almost syncing with mine. She looked up at me, eyes wide, glassy. You don't understand what this costs me. Then let me pay for it. Her lips parted, but no words came. Just silence, the kind that says everything. I stepped closer, close enough to feel the warmth of her body against mine without touching. This is it, she whispered, voice breaking. If we do this, there's no going back. Then don't go back. For a heartbeat, everything stilled, the ticking clock, the distant hum of rain outside, the world itself. Her hand found mine. Fingers intertwined. A soft, desperate grip. She leaned in, not a full kiss, not yet, just close enough for her forehead to rest against mine. This is wrong, she breathed. Maybe, I said, but it's real. Her eyes opened, meeting mine, and for the first time, either of us looked away. No excuses. No running. No pretending. Whatever happened next, it would be ours. ChatGPT said. The morning light slipped through her curtains, soft and forgiving, like it knew what had happened between night and dawn. Either of us said much. We just sat there, two people who had crossed a line we'd spent too long pretending didn't exist. Her head rested lightly on my shoulder, her fingers tracing slow circles over my wrist, as if memorizing the shape of something she wasn't supposed to keep. You're quiet, she murmured. I'm trying to remember this, I said. Every second of it. She smiled faintly, that same careful, almost shy smile she wore when she wanted to hide how much she felt. I told myself it couldn't happen, she whispered. That it would ruin everything. And did it? She looked up, her eyes still heavy from the night. No, she said softly. It just changed everything. Outside, the rain had stopped. The world looked washed clean, like it hadn't seen what we'd done, or maybe it had and didn't care. She reached out, brushing a strand of hair from my forehead. Her touch was slow, deliberate, tender. You'll leave, she said. Eventually. I will, I admitted. But not now. There was no promise of forever. No dramatic vows. Just two people finally honest enough to exist in the same silence. Her hand slipped into mine, small, warm, sure. Then stay for breakfast, she said. It sounded ordinary, but the way she said it made it feel like everything. We sat at her kitchen table, sunlight crawling across her face, the faint sound of a kettle whistling in the background. She moved around quietly, barefoot, graceful in ways she didn't even try to be. When she poured the coffee, I watched the way her hands trembled just slightly. She caught me looking. What? Nothing, I said. Just you? She shook her head, a soft laugh escaping her. You're too young to say things like that. Maybe, I said, but I mean them anyway. Something in her eyes softened, the worry, the distance, all of it fading into something simple. She leaned in, close enough for her breath to touch my cheek. I don't know what this is, she said quietly. Me neither, I admitted. But I don't want to pretend it's nothing. Her forehead met mine, a slow, grounding gesture, like an apology and an answer at once. The kind of closeness that didn't need words. We stayed like that, her hand still in mine, the room still smelling faintly of coffee and rain. No promises. No endings. Just two people finally choosing to stop running from what they already knew. And in that quiet moment, it didn't feel wrong anymore. It just felt right.